Welcome to Movie Insight Global. Today I am going to explain a South Korean action thriller film called The Gangster, The Cop, The Devil. Spoilers ahead. Watch and enjoy. The movie begins by showing us a white car driving around the roads of a bright lighted city. The white car then follows a black car and bumps into it. When they reach an isolated place, the drivers step off their cars and the guy from the black car takes some pictures of the accident in case his insurance company asks for them. Then the driver of the white car hits him and drags him into the back seat of the black car, stabs and kills him. He then drives away in the white car. On the 5th of August, a hot summer day, two cops are caught up in a traffic jam. They are listening to the radio about the murder that happened. Since the traffic is not moving, one of them, young Tae-suk, steps down of the vehicle and walks into a gambling facility. The security tries to stop him by bribing him. They put a pile of money in his pocket, but Tae-suk doesn't like that and beats them up. He then proceeds to arrest a guy who works behind a counter. The accusation is illegal exchange of money. Meanwhile, a gangster, Jang Dong-soo, is practicing on a punching bag. Some of his men walk into the room and tell him about the incident. Dong-soo first orders for the punching bag to be put down. His men lower the punching bag and unzip it. A man has been trapped in it and he is all bloodied and beaten up. Dong-soo then exits the building and gets into a car. The two other cars follow him like a convoy. He calls someone in the police department and complains about a cop who bursts into his gambling facility. He is paying money to this police director to keep his men from doing such things and annoy him. Tae-suk makes the guy he arrested drive his motorcycle and give him a ride to a crime scene. Tae-suk handcuffs him on the motorcycle and approaches the scene. In the background, the guy can be seen turning his motorbike around in order to escape. Tae-suk approaches the scene and it seems like the police had stumbled upon the man who was murdered. Tae-suk examines the scene alongside his partner and finds a clue that probably somebody had bumped into his car from the rear. Dong-soo speaks with Sang-do, another gangster, as it seems, and they talk about respecting their territories and their duties. They mostly disagree and their two bodyguards get into a verbal disagreement. Dong-soo gets up and punches his own bodyguard while he removes two teeth from the other bodyguard's mouth with his bare hands. He says they should not speak when the bosses are speaking. Sang-do has been so intimidated that he can't disagree on anything else. At the police station, a group of men is having a meeting and they are analyzing the victim's life. He has no debts and no enemies. Then they try to build a profile around the killer. Tae-suk suggests that he must be a serial killer because there have been two more killings or a knife of the same length has been used. The other men disagree with Tae-suk, while at the same time the director picks on him because he crushed the gambling facility without having the jurisdiction to do so. Tae-suk won't change his mind as he just wants to catch bad guys. Dong-soo walks out of the building with his bodyguard holding an umbrella above his head. He orders his guard to take the other men and go home, as he is not drunk and he will drive on his own. On the way, Dong-soo is driving while talking on the phone. Suddenly, a car bumps into his car from behind and he hangs up. The driver steps off the vehicle. The other man is not just anyone, he is the same serial killer. Dong-soo doesn't want to notify his insurance company about the accident and walks away. The killer won't let him go and stabs him twice, but Dong-soo is not an easy target. A brutal fight ensues. Dong-soo eventually takes the knife out of the killer's hands and stabs him back. Finally, the killer escapes after knocking Dong-soo with his car. Dong-soo is admitted to the hospital while his men go hunting and killing other rival members of the underworld to get their revenge. At the same time, the serial killer cleans his knife and takes care of his wounds. He then walks through an outdoor facility and finds another target, an old man, and stabs him. Dong-soo wakes up and talks with his bodyguard. He has no idea who the attacker was, but he tells his guard to look for a white sedan. Tae-suk visits Dong-soo to get his statement, but Dong-soo gives him nothing. Tae-suk goes on to examine Dong-soo's car and makes the connection. A white sedan has bumped into his car from the rear and it must be the same person. Tae-suk speaks with the police director and tells him to stop covering up for Dong-soo. He says they need to bring him in for an interrogation, as Dong-soo has seen the killer's face. He furthermore claims that he was right about the serial killer and he must be the serial killer. Who else would have the guts to attack the leader of a gang? The director doesn't want to hear it anymore and kicks him out of the office. A montage shows us that the serial killer stopped at a gas station to grab a coffee from the vending machine. He spots a man and stabs him to death, while at the same time Dong-soo is describing the killer's face to a woman. She is drawing a sketch and she gets it pretty close. Dong-soo gives the sketch to his bodyguard and orders him to find the attacker before the police do. While the killer is driving the truck, a man wakes up as he's been sleeping in the cabin of the truck. The killer eliminates him as well, but the knife falls out of the truck and onto the side of the road. Tae-suk visits Dong-soo one more time to put some pressure on him as well as appeal to his emotions that the killer is absolutely crazy and he must be stopped or more people will die. Dong-soo doesn't give him anything. Later his guard tells him that their businesses are not going as well after he was attacked. Dong-soo decides that he has to get this killer and kill him to clear his name and gain back respect. His men have found the white sedan and a knife used to kill people. Dong-soo invites Tae-suk to collaborate on the quest. If Tae-suk finds him first, he can bring him to justice, but if Dong-soo finds him, he will punish him as he wishes. They share all the information that they have till now and Dong-soo reveals his camera, which has been filming their conversation this whole time. He needs some assurances for working with a cop, and so the gangster and the cop become partners to catch the devil. The killer must be around 35 years old, and he exclusively kills at night. Tae-suk shares the secret with his partner and another officer, and he tells them they will assist the gangsters to find the killer and then they will arrest him. Dong-soo tells Oh-sung, his guard, that they will let the cops help them, and once they find the killer, they will get rid of them. Dong-soo complicates the case a little bit more as he orders a hit on Sang-doo. The assassin uses the serial killer's knife and he also leaves it right there for the cops to find it. When forensics examine it, they find genetic info on it that connects it to the previous murders at the gas station. Tae-suk solves the puzzle and understands that Dong-soo got rid of Sang-doo in a way that would trick the police into thinking that the serial killer did it. Tae-suk visits Dong-soo and they have a fight, but he can't really do much about it. The news is reporting about Sang-doo's death and a new team is a swarm added to the police department to help the investigation. The real serial killer is watching the news in a restaurant and hums to himself, "I didn't do that." A young man listens to him and looks at him frightened. The killer gets up and leaves. On his way out, he taps the young man on the shoulder. At Sang-doo's funeral, the serial killer is sitting among the crowd and is keeping an eye on Dong-soo. He approaches Sang-doo's bodyguard and gives him a note which reads, "Sang-doo was killed by my knife, but not by me." His face points at Dong-soo. Dong-soo and Tae-suk are now taking a closer look at the white sedan and they find bloodstain under the wheel that could potentially lead to the killer's identity. Suddenly, a group of men attacks them. They are Sang-doo's men. A fight ensues and the two of them manage to beat them. Later, Tae-suk and his partners get a lead on the serial killer and they actually get to see him. They hunt him down along the streets, but he manages to evade them. They discover a place where the killer ate and drank. They start looking for the bottle he drank from and they visit a factory where the empty bottles get returned for recycling. They also bring the forensics team with them to try and get some new leads or clues. Dong-soo is forming some new partnerships trying to restore his business to its former glory. At the police department, a woman who works in forensics gives Tae-suk a file and suggests he goes looking for that guy. He has been declared missing a long time ago, but she found a fingerprint that matches the one that she found on the wheel of the white sedan. It might be some kind of misdirection, but it's worth looking up. Tae-suk visits a house that is rented by someone and he suspects might be the killer. He speaks with the landlady and she says that the man who rents the house is a good man who has never caused her any trouble. He is able to find some pictures and some other clues. He compares the picture to the sketch they have from Dong-soo's description, and this is definitely the serial killer. Tae-suk tells his partners and Dong-soo about it and they take action. They share the killer's picture with everyone and they search the whole city for him. Unfortunately, no luck yet. The men are tired and they decide to take a break. Dong-soo is waiting for Tae-suk at a random meeting point and it's raining. A female student is waiting for the bus right next to Dong-soo and he gives her his umbrella to protect her from the rain till the bus gets there. Dong-soo, Tae-suk, and their men are eating dinner when the news broadcasting on the TV draws their attention. The student to whom Dong-soo gives his umbrella has been found dead and he gets angry and everyone gets up to search for the killer again. This time they spot him in a car and a car chase takes place. Dong-soo and Oh-sung crash the killer and Tae-suk at the same time, however the killer escapes on foot through the dark alleys. They split up to chase him and the killer stabs Oh-sung, but then Dong-soo was able to track him down and serve him a good beating. Dong-soo takes him to a warehouse and tortures him. When he is ready to chop his head off his shoulders, Tae-suk crashes into the warehouse with his car and knocks Dong-soo out. He then formally arrests the killer and takes him to the police station. One more problem occurs when the police do not have conclusive evidence to send the killer to death row. Tae-suk convinces Dong-soo to testify as a witness in the court. Dong-soo will do it if Tae-suk promises to send him to the same prison as the killer. Dong-soo appears in the court and proves that the killer has indeed attacked him. When they fought, he stabbed the killer on the left side chest. The policeman checks the killer and he has a scar in the same place on his body. The killer ends up in prison and Dong-soo gleefully enters prison. In the last scene, while the killer is showering, Dong-soo confronts him with a rope in his hand and a smile on his face and says game over. Thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe the channel.